Let's finish up the first Indiana Jones omnibus with Indiana Jones and the Arms of Gold. This was written by Lee Mars with art by Leo Deranona. I'm not sure. Deranoa? And in it, this is in 1937. I should make that clear. They do give a date in this. This is 1937. It's the year before The Last Crusade. Indy is fairly new to teaching at Barnett College, where he loses his Archaeology 101 class to a woman named Francesca, who he ends up meeting at a party. They have an argument. She leaves, only for him to bump into her a week later, and she is being chased by thugs. Turns out her brother's up to something in South America, and it's up to Indy and her to go find him, and he's looking for the Arms of Gold. And that's really all I want to say about this, because this one has a lot of twists and turns that I think you should all check out for yourselves. Couple things I want to get into in this. Number one, this might be the only time I can think of where Indiana Jones smokes. Yes, he smokes cigars in this. He smokes a cigar, and I always think that that's kind of funky. Something noteworthy in my opinion, as far as I can remember. I don't remember Indiana Jones smoking anything ever. So this is interesting. He's smoking a cigar with someone in this. The other one, and this is going to be a tally for these Dark Horse comics. How many times does Indiana Jones lose his hat and not retrieve it? Because if you guys remember my Paper Movies discussion about Raiders of the Lost Ark novelization, in that he loses his hat in the ocean, which was a deleted scene where he hung on to the back of the U-boat for miles and miles. And he lost his hat during that, his lucky hat. And in Steve Perry's novel, Indiana Jones and the Army of the Dead, Indy tells Mac that he has had this same hat for years, and implying that it is the same fedora that the character Fedora gave him in the beginning of Last Crusade. And he has just had it fixed over and over and over again. But in this, and in not the next one, but the one after, he clearly loses his hat. Heck, even in Indiana Jones and the Seven Veils by Rob McGregor, it's unclear if he has his hat at the end of it. So that makes me wonder, is there a short story out there where it explains that Indiana Jones' fedora is magical, and that's why he keeps coming back to him? Because he clearly has the same fedora in Last Crusade. Yeah, I don't know. It's interesting, though. I mean, heck, sometimes I lose my fedora, but I always find it. So anyway, what do I give Indiana Jones and the Arms of Gold? Honestly, it's kind of meh. One of the big things I didn't like about it was the art. The art, to me, specifically the coloring, feels very muddled. It just feels messy. It feels really messy. There's supposed to be a twist with the villain. You guess it right away. It's just kind of nonsensical. And I talked about in the Rob McGregor novels how Indiana Jones endings feel super rushed. This is the most rushed of an Indy ending I think I have ever seen. Even the stuff like the next two I'm going to talk about, where there are one's a 2-issue miniseries, and the other one is from, I think, Dark Horse Presents, which is a comic book that had a lot of different stories in it. It's 3 or 4 parts of a Dark Horse Presents. So it's also really short. And those don't feel nearly as rushed as as this. And it's just not that good. I don't like the Indiana Jones girl in this. I just don't care for her at all. The only big positive I have for this, and why it gets 3 stars and not 2 stars, is that this, like with Thunder in the Orient, which I did not talk about, it ties into the Young Indiana Jones Chronicles TV show. In Thunder in the Orient, they talked about how Indy rode with Pancho Villa, which is one of the better episodes of Young Indiana Jones Chronicles. In fact, I would honestly say it's one of my favorites. But everyone knows that connection because George Lucas had it referenced in Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. So that's like not that surprising. The connection in this, though, he and Francesca run into a French pilot from the First World War. Indy was in the First World War. He was a teenager. And the pilot says, "You speak French with a Belgian accent." And then later, Francesca asks him why that is, and Indy proceeds, they cut away, but he talks about some of his war stories with her. Because if you're fans of the Young Indiana Jones Chronicles, you know that Indy ran away from home, and he actually, with his friend, I believe his name was Remy, they went to Belgium and joined the Belgian army and fought in World War I. At one point, Indy was a spy. It's interesting. But it all started with him, and Indiana Jones enlisted with a fake name to join the Belgian army in the First World War. So I thought that was nice. Overall, though, it's a very meh story. It's the weakest of the 3 stories in this, I will say. And I know I was hard on Fate of Atlantis because I quite frankly expected more from the comic. But I still think if you could track this down, you should get it. You're going to get a really good story with Thunder in the Orient, but I think if my like ratio says anything, people are fans of the Fate of Atlantis comic. So, yeah, it just wasn't my favorite in my opinion. But I think this is worth your time to check out. And I'm going to jump into the second volume of this. There were two omnibuses, and next time I'll be talking about Indiana Jones and the Golden Fleece. Have a good one, everyone.